want to welcome you to a place that you wish you didn't have to be today. We wish we weren't here, and we wish Miss Bobbye was talking to us, yelling at us, having her typical conversation with me as a preacher when I go by her house was to, I told the kids, well, we go to the dance game, I said, she'd stick that finger out and she'd be telling me some things that, mainly about you, that needed prayer and needed help, and we're going to miss her. I know you're going to miss her. Miss Bobbye Moore was born November 21st, 1943 in Hazelhurst, Mississippi, and passed this life July 20th of this year. She is survived by her sons, Randy and Tony, her sister, Bonnie Beckham, brother, Robert Higdon, and grandchildren that she loves better than life itself. She loves you, grandkids. Kenneth, Sills, and Clayton, Anthony Moore, and Zachary Moore, Anna Moore, Meghan Moore, Richard Green, and Melissa Green Wallace, and her great grandchildren, Haidyn Moore and Ariel Moore. And so we're going to pray right now. Would you pray with us as we open this up? Lord, throughout the years, you've privileged me to travel overseas many times a year. And I've seen funerals in Buddhist communities, in Muslim communities, and my, what a difference their funerals are than ours. Just to see them mourning, to realize that their afterlife is nothing like ours. Their book is different than ours. We have a Bible, and our Bible says to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. If you know Jesus, Paul said that's what's going to happen to me when I die. It'd be like being in school when they said my name, and I said, present, I'm here. And all of a sudden, Bobbie's name was called in heaven a few days ago, and she said, present, Jesus, I'm right here. So today we rejoice with her. We mourn with his family, but we also have the hope of the resurrection. And that's what we want to talk about today in Jesus' name. Paul makes a statement in his letter to Timothy, the young man that he mentioned, and he said, "I've fought a good fight, and I've kept the faith. Henceforth there's laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me in that day, and not to me only, but to all those who love his appearing." His Father loved Jesus. Now, some years ago, I had a funeral that I did for a lady that was pretty well off, evidently lived, I believe, in a nice home, beautiful car. Looked like they had a lot of money, but she had a ring on that was, I know, came from a Cracker Jack box. And it looked funny on her attire to see that ring. And I was looking at it, and she said, "You look at my ring?" I said, "Well, just wondered about it." She said, "Well, that was the first ring that my husband could get me. And we've been married all these years, and it's just precious to me because it has memories." And my mom and dad used to lead us singing in the old country church, and they used to say, "Precious memories, how they linger." So the boys called me. Was it yesterday, day before yesterday? I forget these days. And were sharing some memories with me that they had. And let me tell you something about memories. Nobody can take that away from me. That's why in front of most churches we have in front of ours a table like this that says, "Do this in remembrance of me." And Jesus said to his disciples, "Always remember my blood and my body." Because when you remember something, you relive it. You bring it back to life. How many of you can just smell a smell somewhere, and all of a sudden you're back in the kitchen at Thanksgiving time and with the family, and it's just a song you hear, and you're back there just like you were years ago. And that's what memories will do for you in the future, precious memories. So the guys were sharing with me some things about their memories of Mom. One thing is they reminded me that Sandra is back here. There's Sandra up there. These were our bus kids. I didn't remember that. When we first started busing years and years ago, they were some of our bus kids in Sojourner Trailer Park. And we were wondering how our kids turned out. Yeah, it looks like they turned out good. So anyway, they were telling me about them being picked up on the bus. And I thought, I think I remember the honoriness of those two fellas. Those guys ago. But they were sharing how that through the years we've been connected to church with you guys. And of course, Sister Bobbye was a member of our church for years. They said she liked to do certain things. She liked to sew. I don't know, after you worked in a shirt factory for some years, if you like to sew, but she tends to have carried that over. She could sew excellently and loved to cook. Now, some of you know about her cooking. These guys said that she was probably one of the best cooks ever. Said her mama was a full-blood Choctaw Indian, Choctaw right here. And so said she taught Bobbye all these recipes, and I felt like when we were talking over the phone that Grandpa Jones on Heal was going, yum, yum. Because they're talking about turkey dressing was the best ever if you ate her turkey, and deviled eggs. She took the devil out of it. But anyway, she loved to cook. You remember her dishes. She loved to do yard work. I don't know if you went over to her house and saw the flowers around. Said that she taught herself on some of that. And so she had daffodils and lilies and other things all around. And she'd proudly walk you around and show you her flowers, because she'd do that to me. And she loved a beautiful yard. Loved to fish. My mom and her had something in common. And this was crazy to me. She loved to ride the motorcycle with Tony. I think it was a crazy spell that came over every now and then because I was thinking Tony right. She did something that in her day was just exceptional. And that was she graduated high school from the Deaf School in Jackson. Pressed on through to get that diploma. And then she made that a goal for her children, that she wanted you to get an education. Randy was talking to me, and he went to college. And at one time, things got real tight. He didn't know how he was going to make it, thought about leaving. And he said his mama came to him, and these are your words. You said she took me aside and sternly Did she sternly do that? Told me that under no circumstances was I going to quit, and whatever she had to do, she would do it to make sure that you went to school. And the old story that I've told many times, it reminds me of that, of a little boy that's in the house asking his mama, said, Mama, can I go out and play? And she said, honey, you can play all you want, but you're going to do your chores first. And so he was sweeping the floor, you know, with that little grumbling and complaining and doing what he had to do. And finally, it was done, and he said, I've done it. She said, okay, go play. Well, she went into the dinette table, and there was a little piece of paper on it, and he had marked everything he had done. Swept the floor 10 cents, just a long time ago. You know, took out the garbage a nickel. I mean, and he put everything down, and he tallied it up, and he got it right. The amount was there, and so she picked it up and saw it. It concerned her. She called him back in, and she said, son, I just saw your little note. You charged me for everything. I just want to tell you something about that, boy. Son, when you came into this earth, the doctors came to your dad and I and said, I have a choice of me living or you living. That if I live, you'd have to die. They'd have to take you. And I told them, I said, I'm going to live and my baby's going to live. And said, when they came and took you, I entered death's door, felt it until they walked into your little body. When I healed your body, I fought death off and I lived. Son, I never thought of charging you for almost dying for you. And besides that, do you know who fixes your lunch every day and who does your laundry and who fixes your bed and does all every day? They never thought of charging you for the many things every day. Do you remember you got sick last year and you were in bed for days? And you had to go to work. I didn't go to sleep for days, all night long, all day long, by your bed. And I did that for you because I love you, not because I want to charge you. You go out and play. That's all I tell you that. So she went back into the kitchen or the other part of the house and came back a little bit later. And she looked up, the note had been moved. And she reached over and picked it up. And on the note, a little pencil had taken and marked through every one of them. At the bottom it said, paid in full by my mom. I think Bobbye paid in full for the meals and everything she did in your life. She paid it in full. I do know this. I do know that her favorite holiday was Christmas. The reason I know that is because the boys told me, but I also know that we used to pick her up, or she'd come to the house, and we'd take her out to see the lights of Jackson. You know, was a section in Jackson that had all the lights on it. And over there, we'd go look at that and go around town and everything. And we'd eat a meal at my house afterwards, and Miss Bobbye would just be the yakkinest, happiest. Inside her house, outside her house, she decorated everything. She loved it. And I did not know this, but she said that Randy was telling me on January 1st, she would go and put her son's gift on layaway on January 1st for the next year. And pay on them all year. So she'd make sure, because I'd raised poor, believe me, dirt poor, that her boys had everything they wanted for Christmas. That's a mama. That's a mama. And did that on their birthdays as well. And she loved your grandchildren. And let me tell you this, there's one thing though Miss Bobbye did, and that was with that finger. She got aggravated at you. It's like that thing was shoot. And she would call you by your full name. You knew when you were being got on, when your whole name got out there. And she would let you know that she's always coming to me at church, having a request at times for you kids and your grandkids, asking God to take control of their lives. There's a remarkable story, I'm not going to be long, but there's a remarkable true story of a woman called Sue Thomas. I used to love to watch this. It's a TV series called Sue Thomas, FBI. And it wasn't LB with an I, it was EYE. Because Sue Thomas, who's a year older than I am, living now, you can Google it, Sue Thomas was deaf. From a few months old, totally deaf, but she knew how to read lips. And because she could read lips, the FBI hired her for surveillance purposes, undercover work, and she would be able to see things from afar and zoom in and see the lips. They couldn't hear it, but she could read the lips and became famous for that, made a TV program and a movie out after her. And I thought of your mom, how that she could communicate so well reading those lips. And even her voice was a little raspy because couldn't hear your voice. But she said it sounded good to me. If you listen to the real Sue Thomas, it doesn't sound nearly that good. And I thought of Mark chapter 7. There was a deaf man, deaf and mute, they brought him to Jesus, and here's what it says in Mark 7. Jesus took him aside away from the crowd. In other words, Jesus treated this man with total respect for his deafness. Didn't do it publicly, not to embarrass him, took him to the side, and then Jesus did sign language. You didn't know Jesus knew sign language, but Jesus did sign language so he would know what he was doing to him. He took his hand and he put them in the man's ears to let him know, I'm going to clear up your deafness. Then he took his fingers and touched his tongue and let him know, I'm going to take care of your muteness, your tongue. And then the Bible says when he healed him, that the man heard and spoke. Now, I'd like to have been there on that occasion when that man spoke. When Jesus said, Ephrathah, which means be open, and he opened his ears, what was his reaction? Well, I'm going to tell you, you can find out. All you've got to do is Google this. It's cochlear, cochlear implant. There are 360 million people on planet Earth that have no hearing or almost no hearing, that they're changing their lives with this implant. And it's giving them hearing. If you'll Google that, watch the kids as they, for the first time they do it, and it's the unveiling, and they hear Mama and Daddy saying, honey. Their eyes get this huge, and they begin to giggle, kids giggle. But when you watch the adults do it, their eyes get just as wide, but they do the opposite. They start crying because they've never heard a human voice. Wow. Can you imagine when Miss Bobbye left this earth and heard Jesus say, Bobbye, or my servant, well done. And she heard clearly for the first time in her life. What a moment. In the 1980s, Life magazine came out with a photo of the decade. They gave a big prize for the entire 80s decade. It was a picture of a man getting off of a plane in Germany who was one of the hostages in the Iran scandal problem that we had. You remember there were 444 days of 52 hostages held in Tehran, and they kept them in these horrible conditions. They beat them with their fists, their boots. They tried to starve them. We didn't know if they were coming home. And so America at that time had a song come out by Tony Orlando. Tony. And he's talking about a guy riding in a bus and asking the bus driver, I told my wife she don't have to accept me, but if she does, would you tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree? And when they came around the bend, the driver let them know there's not a ribbon around the old oak tree. The whole oak tree is full of ribbons. So America got a hold of that and started putting yellow ribbons on our antennas or telephone poles or houses, trying to tell those 52 hostages, we're believing that you're going to come home. Well, the picture was of them releasing them, and this one guy getting off of the airplane, steps down the steps, and all of a sudden, to the side is this little girl, about 8 or 10 years old, in a yellow dress. The police are reaching out, trying to keep her, but can't hold her. She bursts forth from them, because that's Daddy, and she's running to Daddy, and the cameraman got it, just as she's leaping in the air, and his arms are waiting, and captured the look on his face when he saw his baby. And I believe that's the captured picture of Bobbye Moore when she looked and saw Jesus. Wow! And got a hug from the Son of God. Can you imagine that moment? You see, my favorite movie was black and white when it came out in 1939, The Wizard of Oz. And when Dorothy's house quit spinning and landed, the genius of the producers was black and white, but they knew they'd just invented Technicolor. And when she opens that door and steps out to the color that was the first time on the screen in 1939, and people were ooh and ah. That's when she said, all that color? She's holding Toto and said, Toto, we can't sleep anymore. Miss Bobbye, if I had the power right now, Jesus did it 3 times. If I had the power right now to open that casket up and bring you back, I think the first thing you do is slap my face. And point that finger at me and say, Brother Blankenship, you leave me alone. I'm in heaven with Jesus and loved ones, and I can hear the angels singing. I can hear the heavenly choir. I can hear the water rippling down from the throne of God. And I wouldn't trade this for anything. So today we'll miss her, but Miss Bobbye, we're so glad you finally made it home. And that's going to be your home forever. So today we bless the family, ask you to strengthen them, encourage them, help them to know that their name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life, because it is. It's just so long for a little while, and we'll see her again soon. In Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. A day without rain.
That's about that.
I try not to complain about that, though.
I know. No, as soon as we do, we'll be complaining about
I know.
that.
Y'all have a good one.
You too.